Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Real Talk, deep dive into all things real estate. Today on our segment, we have got the wonderful privilege of sitting down with Jason Tong. He is the inspiration behind T1 Group. Yep. And we just want to talk all things real estate, all things real, again, keeping the conversation real. Jason, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. So thank you. My name is Jason. I'm from T1 Group. And thank you for Johnson inviting. And today I'm very pleased to come here and talk about more like real estate, what's happening now and what's happening in the future. I think we can start something like...
That's everyone, because I think most important in the minds of everybody is a lot of questions about real estate. Yeah. So first question off the top is that a lot of people say that the real estate market is sort of like just flat line. Yep. Do you see that on the front line?
Okay, so I'm the frontline person. I was dealing with the seller and buyer every day. So what I see is that's a different according to the area. Like Markham, so where we are now. So Markham is okay. I mean, like people buying and selling because they have to immigrate. When they immigrate here, they have to settle down. So it's really like depends on the different areas. So that's what I can explore. But for the like very hot areas, it's okay. I mean, the resale, rental, even the rental in downtown Markham is very high. So I have a listing in the downtown Markham. They're like 10, 20 agents call me like in 3 days. They say, hi, my clients just come here. They want to like rent a unit. So what's your client's expectation? What I can see is even the market is slow right now, but the rental market in the specific area is still very hot. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. I think that really goes back to the question or the concept that we've talked about in our market outlook, is that it's a tale of two different markets. You have the market that is really more of the, let's call it end users, where people, let's not use the word end user because people don't know what end user really means. Let's talk about it's a market where people actually want and desire to live in, to really take roots. Let's call it that market. Versus another market, which we used to call it the investor market, where it is like predominantly downtown Toronto. And there's a lot of high rises, a lot of condos completing, and there's a lot of supply. So that particular marketplace, it is being stressed, is being strained, and there's a lot of sensational news that talks about it, that's saying, hey, that market is tanking. And a lot of people misunderstand that is applying for every marketplace, which is not true, because location, every project, every location, every community, every neighborhood is unique on its own. I think that's important.
Exactly. So that's why I still want to bring back to the Markham because that's where we live now. I think, so as a Markham. Okay, so the GTA is big, but we need to specify in some areas. So that's why, Johnson, I want to bring back to Markham because I think that's here. This is city like got what we all want. We got restaurants, we got shopping, we got supermarket, we got everything. We got transportation, we got a highway, we got transportation and school. That's most important. So let's back to the Markham. So now it's a kind of like between end users and investors. So now we maybe have to focus more like end users. So what end users want, where they want, what kind of building they want to live, and which areas they want, which areas they want to settle down, and which school they want to go as well. So and what actual activities or leisure they want to spend with. Yeah.
Okay, Jason, now it's your turn.
In Markham, condominium, freehold. Which one do you prefer? And what's the suggestion to the people?
I think it is actually what are you looking for in terms of your neighborhood? What defines the neighborhood and what makes that neighborhood? And then so that's the reason that I said that question of condominiums or freehold is that if you look at Markham, Caden, Highway 7.
Highway 7.
Okay, you drive anyone who knows Markham, that is the condo land.
Exactly.
And if you're looking at freehold, whether it be semis, whether it be towns, whether it be single detached, then it most likely, the newer, nicer ones may not be right on Highway 7. It's going to be on the north of that, between 16th and Highway 7. And so you are talking about actually two different localities. So if we're comparing condos, the real question that you guys should be asking is that, what do I want for my family? And part of the thing that people really fail to understand is that when I choose a home for myself, there's a huge switching cost. What that means is that once you move into a home, average family stays there for 8 to 10 years. they don't move every so many months.
Okay.
Because of the transaction costs. Yes. Is that you guys select carefully. And the reason I love the fact that you brought up schools is that through their life cycle, a lot of families ultimately would start entering and contemplating about school for the kids. So as a result, the school network is important. But more importantly, it's not just the school, the ranking, it's actually community, the other families, other parents, that whole community. Do they embrace education?
Yeah.
Okay, and that is so important. And then so those are things that people are looking at. So whether it is single detached or freehold, as you said, or condominiums, it really depends what you're looking for. And I think, so their first home actually right now, as we are maturing, as the whole city is growing, is that for Markham, a lot of people, the first home may be a condominium as a starter. Whereas before, a lot of people may think that the starter home is a smaller single detached or a townhouse, but now it's starting because of the unaffordability issue. So it's forcing and giving way for a whole new marketplace where people, the first starter home is actually condominium. It may be 1+ den, and they slowly move up into through that whole product life cycle.
So Johnson, that's a good question. A great time building a condominium, because when the people, like, especially the baby booming, when they get in a certain age, they want to get rid of, because I think the gardening is too much work for them. So the people were deciding, are they going to move to the retirement home or the condominium? So Johnson, so that's a question I give to you. So compare with these two, so what do you recommend?
This is two different things. I think even in retirement, there is the early retirement and the latter stage of retirement that you have. Okay, I think honestly is that, and it's something that a lot of people don't want to think about, because no one wants to think about their parents aging. But I really seriously ask you guys to think about it. Because if you think about it, you think it won't happen? No, it's still gonna happen. It's just that you're not ready for it. You're not planning for it. And I think the interesting thing is that us being in real estate, real estate is not an impulsive thing. It takes time, it takes planning, and it takes that strategy as to how you navigate through life. You go into condominium, you have much more freedom. In freedom in terms of you have a broader segment of people in that community. Think of condominium as a little small community, a little small subdivision. And that subdivision would have different sizes, and that subdivision will have different families in there. And so if you want to go into a subdivision that is only for 55+, do you have those adult lifestyle communities, or you want to go into a more of a generic type of community subdivision where you have a different segment. Like for me, just to learn and take on new passions and new interests.
I see. So what John said, it really depends on the stage of life. It's when you like which stage, and there's no place like for forever. It really depends on the stage of life, like where you're comfortable with. That's my correct. Okay, for the young generation, Johnson, I want to ask you, rent or own? So Johnson, what's the suggestion? And in terms of rent or own, because it really depends on resale of the new home, because I think it's related. So Johnson, what's your recommendation for some young people, young generation?
Okay, so prior to gives you the most freedom, renting gives you the most flexibility, and the switching cost is minimized. Okay, but in Canada, it is different. In Canada, because of the taxation, because of the rules, it actually encourages people to work to a level where you actually have home ownership, because your asset accumulation is much faster because of the tax treatment of different products. Now, but you gotta understand that in our great country of ours, is different. And so home ownership or any type of like real estate ownership, it's important to help you build that growth. So now renting or owning, at the very onstart, you have to rent, because that's how you get started. Then you can go into home ownership so that you could actually start building up equity. And with equity, will allow you to pivot into doing a lot more things. In one's life, you only get so many 10-year cycles. look at your life as in different 10-year cycles. Most people, let's call it from the 25 to 35. 25 to 35, that's where you're starting into your career, you're developing your career, and you want to be as nimble as possible. And what that means is that the early stage in your career, you may be renting because the switching cost is minimized. You just rent the next place. You want to get to a different place because you want to attract and be with different people who challenge you to learn and to grow and to expand your horizon. Basically it, okay? When you're 35 to 45, that is a different lifestyle. That is the family formation stage, okay? Now that's where earlier you talked about the school is important because now you're picking who are your other kids going to play with, and in terms of you as a parent, who do you want to hang out with other PTA groups? And who do you want to associate with? And who do you want your kids to associate with? That's important. Picking your surrounding. It's not always the best tree-lined homes. It's actually the demographics of that particular neighborhood. Right. And it's not the restaurants, it's definitely not the bars, it's not those things, but something else that has more meaning during that cycle. And then once you're in the 45 to 55, and think about it, most people 45 to 55, they're in the mature stage of their career and they're going to make more moves. Most of the people make significant moves in their career between 45 to 55.
Okay.
So those are the days that you're starting to start thinking about, because the kids are going to go to university, so it doesn't really matter that particular crowd because their horizon, their group have expanded. But what's important for you now, the family values. How can I stay close to my family? How can I be there for them? Because they have been there for me when I was growing up. And then so that you start planning for that, and that's important. And, you know, like, there is so much talk about, do you deal with any clients that are in that process of thinking about right sizing for their homes?
Oh, yeah, I think that's the one thing. Just I really like the Johnson one topic. It's called 10-year circle. So just thank you for your sharing with me. This, I think, it's a life circle. So I'm gonna talk about downsides. I was when you talk about the life circle, I was thinking of something. It's during my career. So Johnson just mentioned was 25, 35. This kind of they starting their career, they don't have enough money, and they starting like saving. So I think like a lot of my clients, I think they are like early 30 or 20 something, they start buying the new home pre-construction because they don't have enough savings. So they're starting like think, hi, my life is settled down after 35. So they do plan their life. I think this is like, you know, also apply for the Johnson's topic, like 10-year circle. So yeah, so that's, I think, question to ask Johnson, because when we talk about like, because our age, I was, when I graduated from university, I was thinking, okay, I need to settle down, but I don't have enough money. So I need to buy something which I don't need to afford a mortgage now, but later in 4 or 5 years. So that's why we buy the new home. And these days, a lot of people think about like new home, they think of the investment. No, it's apply for your life circle. 10 years, you have to think, what do you do after 5 years, 10 years? You need to settle down. You maybe get married, maybe your kids get born. So that's why you're thinking of. And then in terms of the new home, so Johnson, what's the most important feature when you think of buying the new home? Buying the new, like, condos, detached, low-rise, doesn't matter. Like, what's more important to you, Johnson?
I think for me, new home, condos, and most of my life I've been dealing with condos.
Yes.
Condos? If you ask me this question, let's call it 10, 15 years ago.
I want to settle. I want to live in the place which I really want, because because my girlfriend were happy and my kids were happy. So that's very important to me, Johnson. So what do you think is the most like?
It's not actually how cheap I buy. It's actually how much it appreciates. And the reason is because, you know, you're benchmarking whatever progress that you're making in life with something else. And undoubtedly, it's natural for us to compare with other people, but make the right comparison. Choose the right things to benchmark against. Dollar's a dollar. I put in $1, they put in $1, but their dollar made more money for them. And I started asking why. And the reason is not just the rent goes up, it's actually that particular location. I failed to realize that was a very attractive location. it has a lot of attributes, and goes back full circle to what we first talked about, is how desirable is that particular community? How desirable is that in terms of ultimately the residents of that building? How do they really perform? How do they really embrace? How do they really like it? And that is something that's really important. And just to give an example, some of you guys know that I very early on in my career, I worked for Concord. And then so in the very early days of the early 2000s, Concord, west of Spadina, okay, at City Place, it was nothing. There was just this golf driving range. That was the era that I started working with Concord. And I remember at that time, I talked to people about downtown, and they say, Johnson, that is just rail lands. It was just, no one would want to live there. Okay, so fast forward 20 years, and they actually didn't take place, it didn't take 20 years. The community started really to show its growth, and it really started getting the energy and picking up the inertia. Right now, if you're around the downtown crowd and you mention City Place, they would know it.
Yeah.
They would get it, right? And then so those the community building up, and the various essence of that community, which is schooling, which is the parks, which is recreation, which is community building. All those things is very part and parcel of that whole experience and definition of the community. And I think definitely price is important. I'm not telling you price is not important. That would be naive of me. But I want you to say, okay, within that budget, with that range, and right now, that same, let's call that budget, you can go to a lot of different places. And I'm sure when you talk to your clients, they have a lot of choices. But more importantly, it's not to be fixated and say, which is the best deal? Don't get fixated on the best deal.
I would ask them like, okay, so the way I'm talking to my clients, I would talk to them, if you are planning moving south, these three projects, which one will you choose? That's how I ask my clients. That's how I ask my clients, because desirabilities. Because people thinking also, sometimes people thinking as investment, but also I think it's more important as people, I have to make sure they do love this project. They're thinking the value. They see it. What's the value for this project and why they choose it, like among three. So as I think as Johnson mentioned, I think everything changing, but in Markham, Johnson, that's I want to go back to the Markham. So Markham, these areas, that's very historical. Like for example, Unionville, Angstland. Like these areas, like, we've been living here for quite a long time. I think these areas never changed, but you can see there's more and more new buildings on the highway 7 and things. I think that's, just I was living in the Unionville for like 10 years. I see the traffic every day. It's like getting jammed. Once they talk about a condominium, so people thinking, okay, is that a good place to go, or just go a little bit north? So that's why, like now, when I talk to my clients, if you are deciding planning to move in condo, you may be not thinking only on the highway 7, but you also have to think of some areas very high disability, and also have a very natural and like the park around them. So,
I think that's a perfect segue. Talking about Unionville. The Unionville is unique. Here at the Unionville, what is unique is that on highway, on Candy Road and 16th Avenue, okay, which is close to the Highway 404 and 407, you have easy access in sort of commute, but you are very distinct and separated from Highway 7. Now, I love Highway 7. I love the restaurants.
I love Highway 7 too. I love it.
I love the shopping.
But I hate traffic. Sorry. I love all the restaurants there, but I really hate the traffic. It's taken me so long, like compared with 10 years ago. No.
Traffic will get worse and worse. Traffic is a sign of progress, I call it. It's more than the traffic. It's the walkability of that community. And what I found is that if you're on Highway 7, it's just you're in your car. You don't really walk around. You don't really, it's not engaging or inviting for you to walk around. And so that takes away from you as a resident of enjoying your community. Now, driving is okay, even though there's traffic. But what's important is that Highway 7, it will always be more of a location for the cars, whereas being a location or placemaking for the pedestrians. It is for me, in terms of regional planning and stuff. That's how I see the distinction. And what makes, the Unionville unique is the fact that it's one of a kind. Within the Angus Glen area, you're in the mature neighborhood. And then, so what that means is basically all the townhomes, semis, it's all built up around it. And so you are not going into a location where it is being bulldozed and there's a lot of new construction right by you. And the worst thing is you don't know what's going to go up right beside you. But in the case of the Unionville, it is very much what you see is what you get. You understand what you're getting into. And that is what people want in terms of the families. They have to go and drive there, take a look and say, okay, I can see that I can walk to the park. I can walk across to the drugstore. I can walk over here and it is walkable. I got grocery stores. I got all these things. But yet at the same time, it's drivable. Question to you, Jason, is of the Unionville, what is the best feature in terms of amenities that you like?
Well, the Unionville, they offer us like which I like. I think for me, as most like is, of course, they do have the indoor golfing, like golfing simulator. I think these days that's the people will like it because also we do have the the Angus Glen golfing course. It's right beside the Unionville condos, but also like during the winter time, when you imagine when you're living there in the winter, you play the golf simulator, and for the summer you can just go just the next door, go to the Angus Glen golf course. You can play the golf there. So I think these two the features I like it because I don't play golfing before, but now I'm starting learning it. So I think when you live in the condo, you have you can go golfing, you can go to gym. Also, Johnson, I think you also have the new amenities. Is it? It's called musician room, is it?
Music room.
Music room. Okay.
Music room.
Can you tell me like what's that about? Like,
well, the whole inspiration behind the music room is actually in a single detached house. If you want to practice music, or if your kids or some of the adult learners wants to pick up music, which is a great passion, a great hobby to pick up, it's hard to practice. And when you're practicing at home, because of the music that you're making, it won't disturb your neighbors. But in a condominium, if you were to practice and if you use the digital and you turn the volume really down, it's not the same. And then so you gotta play it with the music. Either you play with the headphones, you don't get that ambiance, that sound. And so we decided to create a music room full soundproof. And it's not just for the pianos, it's actually for drums, for guitar, violins. And what is really cool, and it's only through a family that bought it, that she told me why she bought it. It was because she saw that the beauty of having the music room in your condo is that on Saturday and Sundays, when her kids right now are going to music class, they don't need to drive around. They actually bring the teacher in. And that is actually what sparked our inspirations to do the Lifestyle Plus, is that on the app, all the residents will be able to book various, let's call it value-added features to the amenities. And that's something that we really embrace out in the West Coast, is that the hardware, let's call it the amenities, the gym, the exercise rooms, the party rooms, the golf simulators, those are what we call hardware, fixed things that we built and we turn over to residents. But then what do they do with it? And you've been to a lot of condos, and you probably have seen a lot of amenities rooms that are just empty. No one goes there.
No one goes there because they think it's old, it's out of date, and they don't want to use it. And there's a lot of I think it's such a waste because you pay the condo fee, right? It's because even the condo you have to pay it, but you never use it. What's the point that you pay it?
So hardware without the software is void. It doesn't add value to the residents' lifestyle. It doesn't enrich them at all. So what we have embraced and took over and parted from the West Coast is this idea of creating this app and having this app that is going to be a lot of new music teachers. It could be golf instructors. And so it really animates that particular hardware to allow the hardware to bring benefits to the residents.
Exactly. So that's why I think we talk about circle. I think the Unionville condo. So all the Johnson give us it's very fair advice to us, and the Unionville condo, in my standing, it's also match a certain circle of my life as well. So that's condominium which I'm looking for me or for my clients. Like when life is stepping to the stage, I need them. I need the true place which I can live. I can enjoy it. It's not only the place I sleep with every day. No, actually I can spend my day there. My kids live there. My family lives there. So every people who wants the Unionville, I think it's not only talking investment, it's also talking about lifestyle. It's a life you're looking for. It's life when you enter in a certain stage, you want it.
Okay. Yeah. Jason, I actually just thought of another question. And that's something I gotta ask you. Is that I've heard a lot of friends talking about the townhouse.
I think the developer, there are more townhouse built. One of the things is because of the return. The people have different needs. Like I live in the condo, and I think it's all meet different stage of life. So that's why I really like the concept from Johnson. It's called 10 years life cycle. So because when you're in different circle, when you just start dating, or you're alone, or you just have small kids, I think condo is more suitable for you. And the townhome, yes, but it's Johnson. It really depends on location. In the Markham, I think either condo or townhouse, I think that's the people like it. So that's why there's more and more townhouse projects coming. But what I found is all the same. Johnson, that's why when I take up floor plan of townhome, what I found out is every floor plan the same. There's no difference because in the townhome we don't have amenities. I have to drive 10-15 minutes to go to gym or go to even play music. I don't want my next door to complain me, so I have to go to the different studio to play the music. If your case in the Unionville High School, it's called a gift program. Your case maybe is very good in talent in the musician, but if you live in townhome, you have to drive 10-15 minutes to get a place to get your kids to play. So that's why. In inverse, for the condo, for me, I rather prefer something condo with their specific feature, with their unique features.
It's the townhouse collection at the Unionville.
Yeah.
Now, this again, you can hand to Incan for creating a product like this. So basically, it is a townhouse base of the condominium building. So you have 2 levels. You have a multi-generational layout where in the ground floor, you have a full-size bedroom, okay, big enough for a queen-size bed, plus a 4-piece bathroom. Upstairs, there's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, plus a den. So for some families, they actually look at that and say, actually be able to live with my mom and dad, who may be here. They may be snowbirds, or let's call it the China, back and forth. And they actually want to be here. And when they're here, if they could stay on the main floor, then they don't have to go up and down the stairs. At the same time, we could be together. And when they're not here, I have 1 extra room. And I also have the upstairs sleeping quarters and also the den, and then so the kids could have a place for them to do their homework, and the husband could have a place for his little work studio. So it feeds and checks off a lot of the boxes, all at the same time, being in the seclusion of a condominium. And what I mean by that is that in a condominium, if you're not home, does anybody know that you're home or not? No. You're anonymous. And that's what's important for Incan. So when they did the design, they created these townhouse, and we're releasing right now. So let's call it 1.1 mil, which is in the same price as a lot of the townhouse. Okay. And so we're offering something, and that will be ready in, let's call it 3 years down the road in 2027, 28. And so it offers a lot of things that people want, plus a lot of things that people haven't even thought about. Because you have a totally secure underground parking. So your car is not parked on the driveway. Your car is not in the carport. It is total seclusion. What that means is that in the Unionville, it is license plate recognition. And you've heard about it. And so I'll explain to you this, is that what that means is that your car needs to be registered. So we scan your license plate, and if it's not registered, even though you have the transmitter, you cannot get into it. Okay. Now, on your way out, they will again scan your license plate. Just for to scan license plate, if you don't have the transmitter, you cannot get out. So for anybody who's worried about the car, the price, possession, the limited collection, it is safe. And then so the builder in Canada have done a lot of that. Yeah, it's a very well thought out building. It's a very well thought out process. And at the same time, in this townhouse, you also have to use up all the amenities. That's the point.
That's very important. Like for us, like, you know, that's for me. If it's a townhouse size, in a condominium, that's a perfect combination of the life for me. It's not only offer you the living space, it's also living the easy life. I mean, it's safe, it's convenient. You know, you can use a lot of amenities. It saves my time. It's my energy. So, and give me enough space. If my parents come here, I think, wow. So I do like to hear like that new townhouse, like, you know, they'll be releasing this project. That'd be amazing. But Johnson, that's with the price range, and in 3 years, if you guys move into next stage, I think you can. Yeah, if you don't have to say, hi, I need to save a little bit of money for the maybe next 3 years, that should be the perfect opportunity for them to consider right now. To say, hi, I mean, I'm not ready to buy the resale right now, but I do have savings gradually. I'm saving my money gradually, and in 3 years, in 4 years, my money is ready, and I can bring my parents or my kids as maybe I get married, I can live there with a perfect combination. Yes. Yeah.
And what's really cool is that. And you remember the maintenance fees for these townhouses, and because the size is over 1,000 square feet, and so that's got 1,100 square feet, 1,200 square feet, 1,300 square feet. We have a different range of sizes, but the maintenance fees is not based on how big your suite is.
Okay,
it's a fixed price.
Okay,
so any suite, any townhouse suite that is less than 1,300 square feet is $499.
Okay, so I give you guys a calculation. So I used to go to the Good Life. Okay, so with 2 people, Good Life, $65 for each person. Times 2 is 100 something. If you go to studio to book for your kids to play musician or play golf in studio meter, how much is it? It's $55. So per hour.
Yes.
Consider of this. Consider if you do the math. Put everything into calculation, your monthly expense for you was be over $500, $600 at least. But as Johnson mentioned, we are fixed, right?
Yeah.
So we can enjoy all the facilities.
All the facilities, $499 for any suite that is 1,300 square feet or less. And that again shows the sensitivity and the foresight of InCan to understand the buyer. And we all know that we want to save every dollar. And so if you can buy, that size is a little bit bigger, then I may feel not that comfortable. So we take away that barrier. So it is on a fixed $499.
Fixed $499, it's like, for me, it's like, wow, it's called a life package. It's called My Life Monthly Package, because actually, if I live in the freehold townhouse or whatever at home, my extra expense will be more than $499. Well, and I still have to drive.
And then during the winter, I go to simulators. But the challenge is that I have to lug my clubs, put it into the car, go to the simulator, take it out when it's freezing cold, and change shoes and everything. I have to do all that stuff, and because it's not in my condo. I'm not in a condo. But that is the pain points that a lot of people would have to go through.
Yeah. So that's why I think I call them like the perfect combination of your stage. When you move into a certain stage, I think the townhouse, the Unionville, that's some things which you should really consider about it. Yeah. And well, thank you, Johnson. Like today, we're not talking about like the one specific project. We're talking about the circle of a stage, my life. We're talking about more like not only the real estate trend in Toronto or in Markham. We're talking about when we move into the next our life, the circle of life. What do we really want? What kind of life we are looking for? What kind of preparation we should be prepared for? Is that, Johnson?
Absolutely. Well, once again, Jason, thank you very much for joining us today. And thank you guys for joining us today as we go into this deep dive into all things real estate.